Seb Terry.
Bye.
This is actually a take two. We're take two, and here we are right now. Oh yeah. I was just literally about to say, we're gonna keep going. I was gonna say the Kiwi and the Aussie with the American flag. I was just about to say that, and then it just came crashing.
I can fix this.
Down.
Something definitely cracked.
Wow, we just created some energy right there.
Yeah.
So the Aussie and the Kiwi and the Aussie here in LA with the American flag that somehow, for some reason, doesn't agree with us.
I should hang that properly.
Well, look,
okay. That's
for another moment. We'll check your DIY skills later. Different conversation. So this is Seb Terry. I'm very excited to have you on the show today, Seb.
Yeah, hello.
So we're here in his new spot in LA, which is where things haven't been maybe correctly just yet. If you're listening to the podcast, we have a full video episode that you can go in the show notes and check out, where you will see what just occurred in the background here. But I'm really excited to sit and chat with you. So we connected very briefly through a friend at actually a 5 Rhythms dance class here in LA, which is very LA of us, I will say. And just kind of then reconnected recently at a conference, and then I sort of found out a little bit more about what you're doing, and I'm just honestly really inspired by what you're up to.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you have a few things that you're doing that I think are really awesome. So you have obviously a platform that you've created called Kindsum, which here we have right here. And we'll get into that, but I want to kind of dial back a little bit and talk a little bit about your story, how this came to be, because kind of what I know of you is that you had obviously a real tragic experience by losing one of your friends when you were 24, and through that sort of wake-up call, essentially, you really started to take a look at your life and what really made you happy, and firstly decided that happiness was a really strong thing that you wanted to actually have lead your life, and also created this like 100 things of just amazing experiences you wanted to create in your life. So do you want to kind of maybe talk to us a little bit about, I guess, like the impetus? Obviously the tragedy was a part of that, but what allowed you to create that, and a little bit about that journey of the beginning.
Sure, yeah. It's been going for just over 10 years now. And,
oh my God. Actually, I just want to interrupt you quickly and just say, it was quite entertaining on that video that you sent me, just like seeing your style change through those like 10 years.
I didn't know how to style. What do you mean?
Like you just like look so different throughout the times, like some of your sunglasses and some of the things you're wearing. And I was like, when was that from?
It's so true.
It's quite entertaining.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like I didn't think anyone would ever see anything. It wasn't meant to be a thing. It was just like you say, I kind of I mean, there was kind of 3 things that happened. I finished school, didn't know what to do, got told to go to uni, got a degree, meant nothing to me.
Right.
And then I started a company because that's what I thought you did.
Okay.
And then I was just like super uninspired by it, didn't make any money.
Okay.
And I was like, even if it did make money, I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
And then in amongst that, I had a friend of mine pass away from school, and it was, in itself, of course, that was horrible.
Yeah.
And yeah, those 3 things that I guess just started playing around with each other, and something happened in my head, and I thought, okay, I'm not happy with how I'm living my life.
Right.
What would I change?
Yeah.
And I just kind of like took a moment to ask if I was happy. I think my friend who passed was happy. I think I really admired the way he lived. He just was himself.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'm not even being myself. And I was like, well, who am I? And I had no idea. So I just wrote down a list of 100 things that I thought would make me smile and figure out who I was.
Yeah.
And just left shortly after to do that all.
Yeah.
So I started ticking things off his list, and as I said, it became popular somehow. And there was documentaries and books and things, and then it somehow accidentally resonated with people. They started their list. Suddenly there was a big community. It wasn't about me anymore.
Yeah.
And then people started asking me for help.
Yeah.
So I started helping people. Instead of doing my stuff, I just helped people with their stuff.
Okay.
I'm still only on 72. I haven't done the 100.
Right, I know. I was looking at your list. There were a couple of things that still are on there.
And then it got to a point where, so I have a reality show here in the US.
Oh.
Yeah, no one knows. I don't talk about it that much.
Okay. We're going to work on the PR for the reality show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a couple of years old now, but what happened was there were so many people who needed help.
Yeah.
We turned most people down.
Right.
We just couldn't help everyone. And I didn't like that. I was like, how do I fix this issue? So then a lot of people basically started seeing what I was doing and saying, hey, we can help them.
Yeah.
So I would matchmake acts of kindness between strangers, and that's what Kindsum is.
Yeah.
It's a matchmaking platform for acts of kindness.
I love that.
I don't know if that answered your question, but that's...
No, it's all relevant.
Yeah,
it's all relevant.
Good.
We go... That's how I work, so yeah. No, and I love that. And I think as well, something that stood out to me kind of on your story there's lots of things, but one thing I think that a lot of people actually, like you said, don't know who they are and don't know what makes them happy, right? Like we live in this world that tells us a lot of things that should make us happy, like material possessions, this, that, the other, which you sounded like you were kind of chasing, but then realizing that wasn't what made you happy. And I think that's a really brave thing to do, especially at 24. Like I wasn't asking those questions at 24, you know? So I want to acknowledge you for that, and then having that commitment to actually then go, because there's some wild things on that list as well.
Sure. Well, it was a lot.
Marry someone in Vegas was like number 2. It's like, how do we work out the order of these things?
Yeah, there were no order. So I was doing number 1, number
dump.
17, 98, 45. It was just a brain dump. For me, it was a brain dump. Like, I do a lot of workshops around like list creation and stuff. Okay. So I don't say, hey, everyone, come and, you know, just dump whatever. There's a process, I think. I think it all comes down to values, actually. So at that time, when I started my list 10 years ago, I'd lived this very conventional lifestyle, listening to what everyone else had told me to do. And so the list at that point was breaking the shackles. It was all about liberating myself, expression. So there would marry a stranger in Vegas, skydive naked, like whatever. And but my values have changed now, and I'm a different person. Because we're all different. You're different to how you were 10 years ago. In another 10, you'll be different again, and it's the same for everyone. And so when I say different, your values will be different.
Totally.
And so your list should always be changing. So although marrying a stranger in Vegas was really important to me back then. It certainly doesn't represent what I do now, but it's a part of the tapestry.
Of course.
But so now it's about more connection and helping people. And so it's not only my style that's changed over 10 years, it's
I'm gonna post the
my
video
values.
below, so you can see it. It's awesome. No, I love that, and I think that it's just it is all part of it. Like, just because things change, it doesn't, like, going through those experiences has still brought you to this place now that is like allowing you to integrate all of that and move forward. So, because I think that's something that, you know, people can get worried of, apprehensive of at times as well. It's like making the wrong decision or doing that, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or I was a different person. But it's all a part of, you know, the process of discovering who you are and what you enjoy and what makes you you now. Because do you continue to write this list? Like, do you now add things on, or are you kind of like over that? Like
no, well, the list is different. So like the remaining 28 things on my official list, they're still exciting, but they're not the most important things to me. Otherwise, I'd be doing them. This Kindsum thing is, it just really is. What I found, I guess taking a step back, my list was purely a vehicle, and I think all our dreams and goals and whatever, they're just a vehicle for us to kind of figure out who we are. So that's what this has been about, me trying to find out who I am and then just be that person. I think that's the most important thing for anyone, if I was to try and be profound about it. But so now my list is different. It's purely about connection. It's what I really care about. I think that everyone's kind. We just don't know how to be outside of what we're told typically, which is here, donate some money here or whatever. And I just think there are so many people, and through my own experience, there are so many people who email me who need help. And all they need is someone to give them time or care or a little bit of attention. And that's it. And that lives have been saved because I've picked up a phone and called somebody. And so, I just think there's but I just think there's a very different way into helping people. And of course, like, helping people is just something we should all be doing. That's why we're here. I see it every day.
Totally.
If I share now one story of someone who needs help, there'll be a million people who go, I want to help that person. So we're desperate for it. And that's what I love.
I love that, and I also love that because I know that this is how you really got onto this. Is that firstly you started, because like I mentioned, this podcast is about answering the call, right? And you answered that call of, okay, I'm not happy, I need to make this list, and through that you discovered that what you really care about is caring for people and being kind and helping other people really do that. Because I know one of the numbers on your list was that helping someone, and through that experience that you had, which obviously will be in the video that I'll share as well, you really realize what truly mattered to you. So I think this is important for a lot of people, because at the beginning of starting that list, you didn't realize you would end up here now in LA with this platform, really knowing that, like, for you the biggest thing to do is be a contribution. But you followed that little niggle of like, okay, I need to do something, and through that process you found essentially like your life's purpose.
For now.
For now, exactly. For now.
There was never a plan. There was never design or structure.
I think that's important, because a lot of people feel like there needs to be a big plan.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
And there doesn't. No, there doesn't.
No plan really a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm told that I live in a very unique way. it's normal to me.
Totally.
And I'm sure there are plenty of other people living the same way. But I don't really put much thought behind, like where am I going to be in 10 years or whatever. I'd hate that.
Yeah.
I like to be agile, to just be very true to how I'm feeling in a moment. And so I think that is how I've got here. Yeah. Having said that, I'm now, like with Kindsum, it's got a lot of potential to impact a lot of people around the world. And I think to do it justice and give it the best shot at doing that, I do need to add a little bit of structure and foresight.
Sure.
And that I'm currently right in the middle of that. Yeah. But no, as a person, I'm pretty, I don't know where I'll be next week. I do know where I'll be next week. I'm going to go to Chicago for a talk. But
beyond that,
it's, I'm just here. I'm trying to just live in the moment and do the thing that's right by me, which I'm proud to say tends to be very productive for other people too.
Yeah. I love that because just what I see time and time again for why people essentially don't create lives of passion and fulfillment is this fear of where I'm, for me even, I didn't start my business for a few years because I was so unsure about where I would be in 5 years, or where's it going to take me, and all of these questions and doubts. And so I think the more times people hear that you don't have to have a big grand plan to end up still doing something really amazing, you just have to trust those little nudges. And that's why this is called Answer the Call, because we do, I believe, get these little nudges from the universe or spirit or whatever you want to call it, just life in general, being this could be something that's interesting, and learning to answer that is how I believe we end up in these amazing places, living in a way that's really fulfilled.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the more times people hear that, the better.
Yeah. I love that. It's great philosophy.
Yeah, thank you. But I think as well with Kindsum, so I'm in the middle of setting up my own nonprofit right now here in the States, which is a very fun thing, but because me and a crew are really, we really believe that to be a service and contribution, which is essentially what you're doing with Kindsum, really is where the most, for me, that's where most of my fulfillment comes from, when we really come alive. But I have had that experience where I think people, like you said, are genuinely really kind at heart, but it can be hard to actually, with our busy schedules and our busy lifestyles, to find that extra step, that extra time to actually be of service. And so I love, firstly, that you're creating that platform for people to do that. And something else that I know you mentioned in your on your website as well is about putting the oxygen mask on first, right, before we can then be of service, which I sort of speak about similar things in my TED Talk. But do you want to kind of explain a little bit about that, and maybe even your philosophy around that, because I think that's important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to what you just said, it's not only that people don't have time in this day and age to help others, they don't have time to help themselves.
Right.
Which leaves us in some weird kind of purgatory state of just being, or actually it's not being, so that's quite a good thing, but just living for others, I think, for, to fulfill the goals of other people. Anyway, so but I think just, on a personal level, I with my story, I helped myself through my list, and I felt incredible, and I felt a better person, and because of that, I ended up sort of helping other people, and I think that's a natural story arc for everyone. Yeah. I don't think it would have made sense if I just started helping people. Right. It might have seemed nice and noble, but it wouldn't have made sense for me. Yeah. And I think we live in this day and age where, for a whole host of reasons, we feel that looking after ourselves, i.e. doing things that make us happy, is selfish. Yeah. Right. And it's horrible. What a horrible thing to, what a horrible notion. I mean, I think they're just, generationally, things are so far different to how it was, even for our parents,
for sure.
And, certainly grandparents, etc. And understandably, they went through world wars, Great Depressions, all these things, and life was different then. It was survival back then, but now it's not. Yeah. We can do podcasts and make money from that. Right. People can travel around the world on no money at all. You can do anything you want, really. And of course it's different. So to be taught the same lessons by our parents is it's lovely of them, but it's not serving us. Yeah. So I just think, that social media is this horrible thing. I mean, there's so many things I want to say. I'm getting confused, but
say all the things. All the things are welcome here.
I just think it's seen as selfish if we look at ourselves, right? Sure. And I think in Australia, certainly, I don't know if it's the same in New Zealand, there's this thing, kind of like a tall poppy syndrome, not to say I'm a tall poppy or anything like that, but generally...
You're allowed to be a tall poppy.
Well, regardless, I just feel that if people, even at school, if someone tries to do something different, or someone is excelling at something or whatever, that's almost a negative for them. Right. What a horrible thing. Whereas here in the US, it's very different. Someone we were just talking before we started this, in Venice and LA, particularly, people are just doing everything. They're just trying things. And sure, most of it's crazy. Great. And why not? The crazy things are sometimes the best. But I think culturally, it's a lot more conducive to progress here. Anyway, I think generally though, as a comment on the way things are as a whole, we don't give ourselves permission. We're not told to give ourselves permission to think about ourselves. You know, it's do this because you can then do that, and then you have enough money to do that, and then once you've got an education, you get a career, and then you can buy houses and have a family, and then you can retire at 65, whatever. And all I did was give myself permission to just think, well, hang on, I don't know if that's comfortable for me. What do I want? And that's the thing that I think is quite special, because I speak to heaps of people who do incredible things. Look at you. You've moved here recently. You're doing this. You're doing your work. You're doing all the things. Why? No, it's not because no one said, "Hey, I'm now going to allow you to do that." You just took it yourself. And I think that's really special.
Thank you. I received that. And that's the thing too. I think I love that around the permission piece, because, and that's why I think social media can be, it's a double-edged sword for sure. Because I think one part of it is really driving a lot of what's wrong in society right now, and then at the same time, it's also allowing more people to see and experience. Like right now, we get to share this on social media, and they can get access to this content, and also seeing you do all the things, and then realize, oh, it's possible for me. So I think that's a really great channel, for that. If people are really conscious of how they kind of consume it, because and something that I always say is like, you can't become what you can't see, right? So it's like if you're not around people that are kind of doing that and taking those leaps and answering that call and like creating a life where happiness is like a core center point, or even just asking those bigger questions of like, does this actually even work for me, or does this even feel good? Allows those ripple effects to change. So I think social media is really good for that. Have you had and just also community in general? Because my experience through impact work and service work and just stuff that I'm really called to like lend myself to, I always find that I meet the most amazing people, right? Because you're really being around people that are like really driven to care. So would you say that through being, a person that's willing to create more kindness and like matchmake people and be in this work of service, do you think like through that you've met like amazing people? Do you think that your community that you're around has like supported you in creating bigger things as well?
Oh yeah. It's such an important part. It's a really
loaded question, the way I did that.
It's a good question. I know.
It's very loaded.
Community is crucial, Since the day I left to do this journey 10 years ago, I've pretty much exclusively met good people. I mean, that's it. And I think also when you take a step in the direction of something you're passionate about, the world shows up. And by the world, it's events, circumstances, or people. We call it coincidence or luck or whatever, but I don't think so. I think it's if you show up, the world will show up. And
amen.
So I have met amazing people. I mean, quite literally, you can move to somewhere like here, where it's abundant, people who are thinking and dreaming and doing. There's a lot of doing here, which is exciting. But outside of just being able to, I'm going to go to LA and whatever. Not to say this doesn't happen in Australia, by the way. Of course, there are pockets of this in Australia, but I just think far more importantly than just physically dropping yourself in the middle of a pond, that you just need to commit. You just need to commit, and when you do, good people come. I mean, when I first started, I ran out of money, almost immediately, and I was staying on people's floors who I didn't know and being fed by people. I've always kind of thought that there's never an issue. There's just never an issue. And I've said this I've done a few interviews lately, and I keep saying this for some reason, but I've always thought that you could drop me in the middle of a desert, in the middle of anywhere, without a passport. Doesn't matter. I'd be fine. I'd be absolutely fine, because people are good. Like, people are good. There's nothing more like, I was having a conversation yesterday with someone, and they were present. They were just present. They were just quiet and listening, and they would talk, and I would listen, and they cared, and I was like, wow, how refreshing, and that's a bit of a sad thing that someone who's present is almost a rarity, but I can't even remember what I was talking about, but who cares? Who cares? People are good.
It's all perfect. People are good. You'll be fine in the desert. It'll be great. No, but actually, this is important. There's so many things I want to kind of ask about. I think the fact of like how you actually did it in terms of running out of money and doing all of that is really important too, because I think when people are essentially starting any kind of endeavor, which is what you did, that's such a big thing. How am I going to make money? How am I going to be okay? But I think you've kind of alluded to it there with your mentality of just being like, I know I'm always going to be good. And like, I can relate to that because I feel like I feel similar things, because I totally agree with, if you show up, things show up for you.
Yeah.
But like having that, like how have you even cultivated that belief system of like, I'll be okay, it's going to be fine no matter what? Is it like because of what you said, because you think people are good, so you'll always have people that you can lean on? Or is it more of like an internal knowing that you'll be able to figure it out? Like, what is that?
Yes, such a good question. I think I always thought that way. I just lived, as I said, quite normally, this blueprint that we're given. Mm-hmm. I just lived that way. So I never got to kind of explore it. And I had like, of course, many smaller interactions with things that were sort of more or less inconsequential in life, going through school and uni, and you know, things popped up. But I saw goodness in people, and then I never really found myself in a real bind. And then, but it was only when I started 100 Things that I just started seeing it, you know, emphatically in front of me every single day. And so through that, just through action and living it and experiencing it, I just know that to be true now. Yeah, but it's nothing I had to work on. You know, it's funny. So years ago, I was approached by someone. It was the first person who ever, basically the first person who was suicidal, whoever had approached me. Okay. And I was having a dinner in Manly, in Sydney, where I used to live, and I read this email at the dinner table. Not that I should have had my phone out, but I'm glad I did. She told me this horrible situation she was in. She had a rope around a curtain rail, and I ran out of the restaurant and called her. She picked up, thankfully. I spoke to her every single day for three and a half months. Wow. And then eventually she's flourishing now. She has a list, by the way, traveling around the world. All the things that were issues don't exist anymore. It's brilliant. But I say that because I'd never spoken to someone who had depression, especially to that extreme. Yeah. And it was, for me, it was just flooring to hear someone who had no faith in anything. Yeah. She was with a very bad partner at the time, which is kind of the catalyst for everything. And I was like, there are good, I remember saying on the phone, there are good people out there, trust me. Yeah. And she was like, how do I know? I don't know any. Yeah. And it's, I guess that kind of relates to what you said earlier about surrounding yourself by good people and stuff, like not only for business or whatever, but even just emotionally being, you know. So I think, having said that, she is such a fantastic example of someone who was at rock bottom and now is, as I said, flourishing. Like we stay in touch. She's stoked on life. So that is to say that anybody can change their life around. You don't have to do a startup. You don't have to be extremely talented at something. All you have to do is give yourself permission to be happy, and then just find that. And that's what she's done, and it's beautiful. Yeah.
That is beautiful, and thank you for answering that call and having your email there and supporting me through that. It's funny because, and I have people in my friend and family circle that have, you know, also experienced depression, and it is hard for, you know, if you don't experience that, to really understand the gravity of like feeling that way, you know, and it's, which is, you know, and which I think is why mental health is such a big, you know, topic that all of us need to pay more attention to, and what's really impacting that. And again, for sure, I mean, everybody that listens to me ever, anywhere knows I talk about relationships and community and environment like all the time, because it's just so important. So anybody that is out there experiencing that, definitely like reaching out, because people are so willing to support too. And I think asking for support can actually be really challenging for people. Like I know sometimes I find it really hard to ask for support in everyday little things. So having a network of people that are, you know, again, showing people that people are really wanting to support, I think is good, because it's changing that paradigm of just like lone wolfing and doing things that, you know, on our own, and just like, you know, trudging along. And people, like you said, are inherently good and want to support. But actually reaching out and asking can also be challenging.
Well, yeah, it is, and that's the biggest thing I'm finding with Kindsum. So Kindsum is essentially a matchmaking site for acts of kindness, right? Yeah. So it's two-sided, people who need help and people who can help. Yeah. Now, leading up to me starting it, I would share the story of one person, and like I said earlier, I'd say, hey, this person needs help, and so many people get in touch. Yeah. So I was like, well, clearly there's a bunch of people who want to help. Right. So then I guess what the challenge now is trying to find the people who need the help. And
it's so interesting that that's the challenge.
Yeah, it is, because it speaks to so many things like, you know, ego, vulnerability, Like taboo. It's taboo to ask for help. We see it fundamentally as a sign of weakness,
right?
And we're not worthy. I don't deserve help. There are many more people who need help, and the fact is, we all need help. So I'm kind of looking in on that, trying to change the mindset, the psyche, the culture around that. Which is, no sort of mean feat. Yeah. So it's really, I think, so what you said is exactly right. Yeah. It's hard to ask for help. And I always say that, if it's hard to ask for help, think of it this way. We're here to help people. We just are. And if you cast your mind back to the last time you helped somebody, so that girl, for example, who called me at a restaurant, who was in a bad way, I couldn't do I couldn't do more. No, what am I trying to say? I couldn't be happier. I couldn't want to do more for someone. I felt like, okay, this is absolute purpose. She was lovely enough to give me that opportunity. And I think if you look at it in that way, when you ask for help, you're creating an opportunity for someone to be good. How amazing. And without that, it's doesn't exist. And it's win-win. I say I need help, and I say, hey, I need help with something. You help me. Not only do I get the thing that I needed help with, but you feel brilliant.
Totally.
So it's beautiful. It's so needed. It's a win-win and a win. Like, it's just the world wins.
Totally.
Love exists. All the things. So I'm trying my best to try and bring down the walls behind the apprehension for asking for help.
I love that. That's a very big mission, but also very necessary and needed. So I think that's really powerful. And it does. It does. The lone wolf thing is definitely super real. And for me, and it's proven as well. It's like part of actually like a human need. To be a contribution, to be of service, like it really is. That's where like fulfillment comes from. Really, that next level of like spiritual growth and fulfillment comes from that space of really being a contribution. So, ultimately, being of service is really something that we all need for our own happiness anyway. To live that next level life, like that really is where I feel the most alive, for sure. When I'm like really being able to do something that feels like it really matters. So I think it's a very noble cause that you're taking on and doing. And I know you have something right now, which just in case anybody out there is able to support with this, I know you have like one that's really alive for you right now that you're trying to support.
So on Kindsum, there's of course people who need help, and we're promoting them all the time. Beautiful things are happening all the time. It's great. There's one story which for me is, if this happens, I don't have to do anything else in the world. I'll die like, happy.
I'm a happy man.
There's a girl called Shana. She just happens to be Australian. I didn't know her. I got introduced to her. She lives in LA. She had end-stage renal failure, so she's on dialysis, and she needs a kidney donor. And the maths behind it almost is that when you're on dialysis, they say you have 5 years to live, roughly. It can be more, it can be less. When you need a kidney and you go on the list to wait for a donated kidney, it's about 10 years. So it's... And
living on dialysis is hardly like the most ideal thing. Right?
So it's a death sentence. And so these people who need kidneys, they're told, do your best to try and find a kidney donor through whatever networks you have. So she shared the story on Kindsum that she needs a kidney, which is amazing, incredibly brave, very vulnerable. She's a hero. And I guess I just want to say that if there's anyone listening who is curious about donating a kidney, this girl is special. She's an amazing person. And she'd be so open to a conversation about it, even just to inform people. She's a big advocate just for that situation. It's not a selfish thing for her. So anyway, if there's anyone listening who feels like donating a kidney,
who's sick of having 2 kidneys,
you don't need to, by the way.
No, of course not. No, and this is just but you never know where this is going to end up. What somebody might know, who somebody might know, any of it. And who's maybe even passionate about supporting that whole process of kidney health. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing that's the thing that I love about people really, and what I'm really passionate about doing too, is supporting people in really finding out what they really care about in such a way that moves them to action, right? Like it might be this woman who gets a kidney and then wants to advocate for kidney health and like looking after your kidneys, or like the process of that, you know what I'm saying? So it's like we all are moved by very different things, but if we will at least just answer that call of like, okay, what I really care about, what action can I take on that? Because then that is what creates all of the change.
Yeah, completely. Change is such a good thing. Like, there's so many things I want to talk to you about, but yeah, change is natural. It's normal. We need to not only embrace change, but create change. Be the change. Obviously, it's the big catch cry that everyone will be familiar with.
Totally.
But it's so true. And Shana, this girl, by the way, she has gone on the Kindsum site and she's helped multiple people.
Right.
So life is that we sometimes we have like a cloth over our eyes. We forget why we're here.
Yeah.
Which is why I was so touched by having a present conversation with someone. We're here to connect. I mean, we really are. You said earlier, living a life that matters, doing things that matter. Yeah. The simple question is, well, what matters to you?
Yes.
What matters? Like, you don't. It's and also a lot of people say, what's your purpose in life? What a daunting question.
I know. I agree.
How's anyone going to go? Well, my purpose is like just do something that you feel matters to you, and then I think you'll learn as you follow that there are things that not only matter to you but will have an impact on others, and that will be closer to something that we call purpose. I think.
Preach. Preach. No, but it's true, and I definitely agree with the purpose thing, because I think it really had its moment in the sun where, because entrepreneurship is becoming really sexy, and doing your own laptop lifestyle and digital nomad and all of that, where it's like, find your purpose, and it's super daunting. My purpose today is extremely different than it was 10 years ago and will be next year. I feel myself changing all the time. And if our purpose is a little more simple of like what really actually lights you up, and like you said, how can you utilize that to then make a difference, then it's a lot more liberating, and there's a lot more ways every single day that you can feel like you're living your purpose too, rather than like one day when you eventually get to the place that like might look like you've reached your purpose. And that, because again, I think supporting people that are listening to really like make it easier, like make it more not easy necessarily, because it's not necessarily easy, but make it more simple to really decide to do that, decide to actually like go, okay, what do I really love, what lights me up, what am I even curious about? Because sometimes I find like, even what do I love to do, what am I passionate about, like even that can sometimes be really overwhelming because we don't know. It's like a lot of people don't know what really lights them up and what really makes them happy, but it's like, what are you being curious, like what are you curious about, what's even like what breaks your heart, what's really like upsets you, and how things are, like starting there and then allowing that to kind of unfold and show you like, oh, like all of a sudden, you travel the world, like at least across the States now, like you don't live in the US, right? You travel and you speak like about all of the things that you created, which is amazing. You, I'm sure, would never have anticipated that this would have been where that journey would have taken you all those years ago.
No, of course not. And there are people everywhere. The beauty of it is there are people everywhere. I was just watching a video on that girl, Greta. Is it that little Swedish, whatever she is?
Yes.
Not whatever but that Scandinavian young girl.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. She is, because I wasn't really sure. I was like, well, I'd like to find out more about this girl. And she did a thing with Trevor Noah. And so I just watched her do an interview. Okay. Oh my God, if you want inspiration, it's all around. It can come in the form of a 16-year-old from a Scandinavian country, whichever one it was. It can come in the form of someone starting a podcast, starting a business. It can come in the form of an athlete. It can come in the form of someone who's just friendly with people. It's there's no excuse. There's no excuse. And like, I couldn't think of a worse thing than being on your deathbed and having a moment of clarity where you get to quickly reflect on everything and you go, I wish I did that different. And you get to avoid that by making a decision right now. And that's it.
I love that. So do you feel like you're living most days like into that way of like, okay, I want to live a life that I feel like I have no regrets? Is that sort of one of your guiding mentalities?
Yeah, and when I first started, like a life of no regrets was like, I'm going for it. Now it's different. It's quite considered, even though a lot of people think I'm like crazy. And because of the stuff I've done, a lot of it's been pretty outrageous. I'll go somewhere and people are like, oh, jump on the table and dance. I'm like,
dance, monkey dance.
Yeah,
it'd be great.
I'm like, I'm not. It's not quite that anymore.
Right.
But
all the things. Living a life without regrets. Yeah, and it changes.
Oh, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. It's fine. But we're moving on.
I keep forgetting questions at the moment.
No, it's fine. I have like literal moments where I'm like, I don't even know what I'm about to say. It happens all the time.
I just finished a talk in Brisbane, and I was on the roof of a hotel, and I was just eating food. This is just to go. I'm supporting this idea that like I just
go there.
Crazy and weird upstairs. And as I was eating food, and I was looking, I was like, oh, I'm an hour from like home, my family in Sydney and whatever. after probably half an hour of thinking about Sydney-related, Brisbane-related things, I realised I was in Chicago.
No way.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, Brisbane, when were you back in Australia? You must go home.
Crazy.
You're like, oh no.
I do go home often, and that's why.
Okay,
yeah.
I could actually be in Brisbane.
Yeah, no, I could have. I still probably was. I just,
right. Just not actually quite sure.
Who knows what the truth is?
Well, what is time and what isn't, like, who knows?
I hope that's rhetorical.
Well, I've been listening to some things on time recently, so it's interesting, you know.
What did you learn?
Well, it's just like, I mean, it's 3 o'clock, it's 5 o'clock here, but it's like another day somewhere else. So, like, what is time really, you know?
Yeah.
Are we really here? I mean, these are the big questions on a Friday afternoon.
I heard someone telling me the other day that the Matrix, the movie The Matrix, that we are in the Matrix.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we are in a certain capacity.
Right.
You know? I mean, well, also, what is reality? That's a good one, because it's like, self-admits a question is good, but like, what is your reality is different to my reality, is different to someone else's reality. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're all living in a different space.
I had this thought, I'm just chatting to you like a friend now, this has nothing to do with anything. Well, but you know, like this is not going to help anyone listening, but
I'm sure it might.
On the topic, I remember when I was younger, I used to think, so, you know when you're like a kid, let's just say 18 in Australia where you are allowed to drink.
Okay.
And then so some people would drink, some people wouldn't. I tended not to.
Okay.
So we'd go out, we'd go to a party, and then one of my buddies would be like, the next morning, he would have drunk heaps.
Okay.
And he, you know, and had a very different version of what happened. He'd be like, what an amazing night. That was incredible. Like, everyone loved me. I was the best dancer.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, it was great. It was a fantastic night. And I'd go, well, I was there and it was pretty average.
Yeah.
But at that point, which one's a reality? They both are.
Yeah.
Right? So, not to say you should start drinking to enjoy yourself, but I mean, like, it's just there's just an alternate reality of the same situation.
Yeah.
I don't know where that leads, but it struck me when you said what you said.
Right. No, I think this is a bigger conversation for people to take ownership sometimes of, you know, of life. Like, it's like people can sometimes think like, oh, it's easy for that person because of this or that, because we all have our different ideas of like what is real and what it takes to create things, but we also have the responsibility and the ability to reframe that stuff, right? Because it's like we can deal with the same things, but like you said, somebody had a great time, somebody didn't. But we all have the capacity to be able to like create that experience ourselves. So I think that that's very profound, Seb, and very relevant. Well, let's head towards the wrap-up zone. I also kind of want to think about what prompted you to move to LA, because that's a big thing that people want to do: come to America and do here and be here and create this so that we can, you know, be around all these amazing people and have these awesome experiences. But what like prompted you?
Well, the way I came here was my show.
Okay.
is based out of LA.
Okay, so this show, I didn't see this anywhere. So what is the show?
So it's a reality show called 100 Things.
Okay, so that's the show.
Yeah, 26 episodes, me helping a person every episode.
Oh, amazing.
So I had a visa with that, and then we filmed the show, and I ended up having another 2 years on my visa. Okay. So I kept coming over for speaking events and stuff, and I just started spending a little bit more time here.
Yeah.
And then I gave a talk on a really cool event, and I got approached by a lot of people afterwards who were like, wow, let's make this happen. People wanted to co-brand, people wanted to invest, people wanted to do everything, right? And I didn't get that anywhere else. And I thought that, and you know, what we were speaking about earlier, I think over here people are ready to jump into good ideas very naturally. It almost seems the default. So it's like, I'm moving here. Yeah. So I went back to Sydney, got rid of everything, which wasn't a lot, but I did. And then I just came back, and I've just been working it out since. And that's kind of what it was. I just decided to, and I sort of had a good springboard into it. So
I mean, but I think that what you just said there as well is like, I just decided to, which it's like some of the times the stuff sounds really simple, but I think the simplicity is key, because it's like, if you want to make something happen, you actually just get to it. Like, you can. You just let it be simple. Like, okay, I know I need to be there for some reason. Again, like answering that call, knowing that life was supporting you and things were happening there. And I feel like that's a big thing. And that's a big thing for me of how I make decisions. It's like, does this feel like things are like aligning? Are things, you know, the fact that you're getting all these people coming up to you and like validating your idea, like those are little signals from life being like, hey, there's something here for you, you know? And I think if we all get better at actually tuning into when that's happening, then decisions in life feel like way easier to make. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, life's kind of already making that decision for me.
Sure.
Which is just like a lot less resistance.
Yeah, I think there's a million opportunities every day for us to do anything and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, there's little things that pop up, those callings from the universe, as you say. They're there, and you get to listen to them or not.
Yeah.
And it's on you either way.
Yeah.
You know.
Totally.
So when people say to me like, "Oh my God, I couldn't do that,"
yes.
it's like, well, you couldn't, not with that attitude.
Right.
and it was the fact is they could if they chose to.
Yeah.
I heard this quote from, I think it's Henry Ford.
Okay.
Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
I love that.
For sure.
And it just speaks to everything that we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my favorite quote of all time is, "You must walk consciously only part way towards your goal, and then leap into the darkness to your success." That's by Henry David Thoreau. It's like,
right.
My lifeblood.
You're good to be quoted, wouldn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you mean when? It'd be great when we I'll quote you in here.
Oh, great.
So then,
if you would. I'll quote you somewhere too.
Perfect. We'll just pop the quote cherry right out the gate.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So any final thoughts that you want to share with anyone about, really any of the things, living a life that makes you happy, taking chances, making a list, being kind, any and all of the things?
Well, I would say for anyone thinking about making a change in their own life, which you deserve, everyone deserves that, choose to do it.
Yeah.
Do it now.
Yeah.
Just make a decision, give yourself permission to think about what's important to you, and just come up with, you don't need 100, come up with one thing that matters to you and just do it, just action it. There's no excuses. Yeah. We kind of think, oh, other people, they get to do that and they might know, so no, just do it. Be creative. When you find your passion, you become infinitely industrious and driven and energized and inspired, and go and do it. So I would say do that. And then for anyone who needs help who's listening, in any way, let me know. Just reach out and let me know. Amazing. Because I have a big network of people who want to help. Yeah. Amazing.
Well, so reaching out would be like listing on Kindsum. Is this the best place you want to send people?
Yeah, I guess so Kindsum is Kindsum. So you can find, on my chest. So you can do it like on Instagram or kindsum.com.
Yeah.
Or you can go to 100things.com.au.
Perfect.
So sort of two different brands now to a degree. But yeah, just find me. Cool.
I'll obviously have all of your links, all of the places down below. But thanks, Seb.
You're the best.
It's fun to chat, and I'm really grateful that you are really, honestly, just carving out the space for reminding people that being of contribution matters, and helping matters, and kindness matters, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks, and you too. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome.